wasn't to be Man City's season, or indeed Liverpool's. Oh no. Not an English side involved in tomorrow's big game, Champions League final, Borussia Dortmund versus Real Madrid. We're going to be there for you live commentary and coverage, and this is how it's going to sound. Let's get you in the mood. It's going to be a cracking game.
Turnaround in the Champions League for Real Madrid.
They always find a way.
I think for us it's really special, this competition. When you put the shirt, you feel something special.
So much late drama. Real Madrid 2, Bayern Munich 1, 4-3 to Real Madrid on aggregate. Brandt with an in-swinger. High to the far post. Free for Mats Hummels. And Dortmund had the goal they were looking for.
It is insane how much of a difference there is between Borussia Dortmund in the Bundesliga and Borussia Dortmund on a Champions League night.
Borussia Dortmund are heading back to Wembley. 11 years on from their numbing defeat there under Jurgen Klopp against Bayern.
So there you have it, my friends, a true clash of the Titans. Tomorrow night on TalkSport and at Wembley Stadium, of course, right here in London town, we're going to find out who is the best team in the world. Because I think, no doubt about it, the Champions League decides are the best of the best. And we have two contenders who are more than contenders, both champions in their own right. We have Dortmund versus, of course, Real Madrid. And to represent Dortmund, I'm delighted to welcome to the show Carver Shipman from the BVB podcast, which is Borussia, of course, podcast. Good morning, Carver. How are you doing, sir?
Doing well, thanks. Thanks for having me.
Looks on behalf of Real Madrid, the mighty Real Madrid, Sunaid Mohammed. Good morning, Sunaid. Good luck tomorrow night. You may not need it, because we must go into this, I'd imagine, as favourites, but we'll get to that in a moment. Let's start with you, Carver, first of all, if we may, because I'm looking back at my historical records, which may not be the best way to approach this, but you guys have met numerous times in the past. I think I'm right in saying 14 times. It's been 3 Dortmund victories, 5 draws, and 6 wins. Oh, and by the way, Carver, and I know you know this, I think Borussia have won the Champions League once. Real Madrid last count 14 times, I think, or 13 times. So how are you feeling overall about tomorrow night's encounter?
Yeah, it's pretty similar, if you ask me, 1 to 14, don't you think? I mean, obviously, no one thought this campaign in the Champions League was going to come into fruition, given the contrast, comparing the domestic form for Borussia Dortmund as opposed to international form. It's been night and day for anyone who's paid attention to us in the Bundesliga. We have been very poor for the most part, but we have been picking up form in the past, just really this spring. And we've been finding some things out, clicking a bit more, and we have really been shown our bravery in the Champions League, not just in the group stage, but in the knockout stage as well.
And, of course, we're in a knockout competition by definition of final. And we all know Carlo Ancelotti, I would say, maybe after Bruce Springsteen and possibly Alan Brazil, the third coolest man on the planet. I don't know as much about your manager, Mr. Terzic, Herr Terzic, who's, I think, of Croatian-German heritage. What more can you tell us about him? What style of manager is he? What type of manager?
Yeah, he is just a Dortmund man through and through. I mean, a lot of the Dortmund fans know him just being a fan before he was even involved with the club. He's been employed in a number of positions before being manager. He is someone who instills a lot of belief into his team. He's not a master tactician by any means, but he does instill a lot of belief. He is very known for his pressing style and his attacking style as well. So we'll have to see. I mean, again, he's adapted a bunch since his stint at Borussia Dortmund as a manager, but we'll have to see if he switches things up and adapts a bit to Carlo Ancelotti's very versatile style of play.
Well, that's the thing about it. If we go now to Sunaid Mohammed. Sunaid, welcome aboard, mate. Thank you so much for doing this for us. Host of the excellent Let's Be Real, as in Real, podcast. When we look at the disparity in the history of the two teams, that's one thing. Tomorrow night, though, it's 90 minutes, maybe with extra time, added time. What do you think Real Madrid are going to bring to the party this time around? Ancelotti is the 12th and 13th man in most sides I've ever seen him manage or play for, work alongside. But there's also the unknown quantity of the fact that Dortmund are a team with hunger and fire in their belly and really with everything to prove, everything to gain from this.
100%. First of all, it's an absolute pleasure, Paul, to be joined by yourself and my Dortmund friend over here. But Carlo Ancelotti, like you said, he is a winner. He's a pure winner in its true sense. He is a man who can basically make a season which started off with absolutely nothing to really hang on to. For us Madridistas, it was basically a season which could be called a transition. And the way we have kind of clawed ourselves back to the top in Europe, almost. There's one last hurdle, of course. but the setbacks and the amount of injuries he had to cope up with is just absolutely marvelous. The way he has rotated the squad, has kind of reinvented players like Vinny, Jude Bellingham. It's an absolute pleasure to have such a man at the helm of our club. Like I said, he's uber cool, and I think that kind of transcends onto the pitch as well.
I get the sense, though, from Dortmund, and Carver may want to have a view on this as well, but Dortmund have negotiated what was called the group of death. I mean, let's think about who they beat. They got the better of PSV Eindhoven, Atletico Madrid, Paris Saint-Germain en route to the final, and they are a team with, I think, a huge never-say-die attitude. And when it's a cup final competition at this level, I'm wondering what, if anything, you could go into that competition, that final match tomorrow, thinking you're going to circumvent, because I think the attacks are going to come from all fronts. Anyone in Dortmund, apart from maybe even the goalie, could get a winner tomorrow, I think, because they're that kind of team. They're all or nothing. They chuck everything at it.
Right, and the reinforcements that we brought in this winter have really revamped this team as well, especially out wide, and I think that's where we're going to be able to hurt Madrid, if any. They don't have any weaknesses, but I do think there's spaces out wide to exploit from the likes of Ian Matson. He has been absolutely phenomenal. Anyone that's seen him perform in the Champions League or even domestically for Borussia Dortmund. Of course, as well, you have the big name in Jadon Sancho, who has not had a favourable time at Manchester United.
Let me tell you, he's not that big a name over here, but he's big in Dortmund. It sounds a bit like, it sounds me being rude. He's big in Dortmund, like big in Japan used to be. But, of course, he has been somebody who feels comfortable at Dortmund, whereas, of course, I could see your, or Sinead might say, I see your Jadon Sancho, and I raise you Jude Bellingham, and I know which one most of us would rather have on. So he is, I mean, he's a remarkable player, but he's one of many in your side, Sinead, isn't he, Jude Bellingham? Only one of many huge talents in Real Madrid at the moment.
100%. He was supposedly an addition to the jigsaw. He wasn't the final piece. We all know who is going to be the final piece, in a week or so, and it's pretty much evident it's going to be Kylian Mbappe. But what Jude Bellingham has brought to the table is undeniably world class and a complete game changer in every sense of the word. Because up until he was added to the team, it lacked a certain edge, especially in its competitiveness, across.
So I love the way Sinead. Sorry to cut it. I love the way you say it lacked a certain edge when you've also got Vinicius Junior. It's like, what more do you want?
He's not a striker, though, Paul. That's the main question.
He gets the odd goal, though, doesn't he?
100%. And he's someone who can create something out of nothing every single time.
And in case you're wondering, chaps, you may not have even heard of the team I support, which is a team called West Ham United, who recently won the Europa Conference last season.
Decent side, Paul, I'm not going to lie.
Thank you very much. That's high praise indeed. Let me ask you, Carver, where does your allegiance, your interest in Dortmund come from, the old black and yellows? Where does it come from?
Funny enough, I actually started watching them in the campaign in the 2013-14 season whenever they beat Madrid and went to Wembley.
Beat 4-1.
The final.
Get a load of that today. They beat you 4-1 back in 10 years ago this year, it could be.
That night basically gave me a lot of nightmares, I'm not going to lie. And it was compounded by the fact that we were just a hair's breadth, away from basically, going through at home.
Hang on, you lost 4-1. That's not a hair's breadth away, is it? That's 4-1.
The first leg was 4-1. I'm talking about the second leg as well.
I'm joking.
You should add that to the context as well.
I'm joking.
Paul, you're a bit cheeky, not going to lie.
Okay, let me ask you the same question today. Why the interest in the fascination with that remarkable, poetry on the pitch, basically, Real Madrid at times?
Basically, I'll tell you, I started following this club at possibly in its glorious history, one of the down periods, basically when it was playing second fiddle to the mighty Barcelona, Pep's Barcelona, the dream team, probably one of the best sides that we have all seen. But what I could identify with the club was its, undeniable spirit, a never die attitude to basically go against, possibly the greatest side in modern times, and trump them at their own game, and basically show them that with determination and the heritage that we have, calling on our great stories, we could replicate what we did in the 50s. It's incredible how we have come how much we have come ever since, like the early 2010s, to say the least.
Well,
so, yeah.
I think this will be your 6th final in 11 years. That alone, and there should be a special cup for that, should there not, Sinead?
It's a remarkable feat, and I'm not going to get carried away. Most of my friends are, super casual in terms of their predictions towards this final. They are kind of undermining Dortmund a bit, but I've seen enough football in my life to know that a Champions League final is never to be taken for granted, and anything can happen.
And let me remind you of something. I'm sure you both know that when ancient Roman general had a triumph, when he went and conquered the rebellious Hun or the Goths or whatever, or the Franks in France, or even the British, the troublesome Brits and Celts and Picts, he was given a triumph back in Rome, and he was there on the chariot, and he's receiving all these plaudits, and he was money thrown at him and lands and stuff. But on the chariot with him, Sinead, was somebody, a slave, whispering in his ear, "You are mortal. You are mortal. Remember 2030, 14, 4-1. It could happen again." Carver, let me ask you finally a final question. You're allowed a prediction tomorrow. It may not be 4-1, but you're allowed 2 predictions for tomorrow. When the final whistle blows tomorrow evening, kind of 10-ish, out time, unless there's extra time. One from your head and one from your heart. What do you think the final score is going to be? You can be realistic, and you can also be, like we all are as football fans, huge optimists. What do you reckon, Carver?
I really think, coming from my heart, I feel like it's going to be a 2-1. I feel like we might shoot ourselves in the foot really early, but we can claw back into it and get another one and hopefully win 2-1. Maybe the head's thinking that too. I don't know if that just has too much optimism running through me, but I'm going to stick with the 2-1 Dortmund.
Okay, so he's being charitable to you, so he's not saying 4-1, 5-1, 6-1. He can only beat you 2-1, head and heart. What do you reckon tomorrow's score? I know you're both having fun with me. I appreciate it. What do you reckon, Sinead? Your prediction for tomorrow's game?
It could go either ways, in the sense that I'm 100% confident that we're going to get the job done. Obviously, while watching the game, I'll be very nervous, but I have to be confident because our record in finals, we haven't lost the final the last 40 years. 10 European finals we have been in, and we have won all of them. 8 Champions Leagues and 2 UEFA Cups, if I'm not mistaken. So our record is, it speaks for itself. So I'm superbly confident it should be at least a 2-0 or a 3-1 win.
Okay.
100%.
So you might concede a goal, but it could be 2-0 or 3-1. Listen, you've been great sports, great fun, incredibly well informed. Your podcast, I've listened to both of them, are great listens. That's the BVB podcast, courtesy of Carver Shipman, host of that, and also the Let's Be Real, as in Real Madrid, Let's Be Real podcast, courtesy of Sunaid Mohammed. Of course, there's one thing, great that your team's histories are, there's one thing you cannot say that I can, gentlemen. Neither of your teams, the dreadful omission in your resume and CV, neither of them have ever won the Europa Conference. Tragic. So from my lofty heights as a West Ham fan, I look down on both of you. Great fun. Huge thanks there to our new friends, Carver Shipman, hope we get to talk again, and Sunaid Mohammed, likewise. We must talk again, guys, from the Let's Be Real podcast and the BVB podcast, respectively. Looking ahead to that clash of the Titans tomorrow night. The Lily Whites, Los Blancos, versus Schwarz-Gelben, the Black and Yellows, on TalkSport. It's going to be a crack.